This is video 4. It is Blender introduction. In this video you will learn about 3D Mesh and edit mode in Blender, which will allow you to get into the shapes and do adjustments on your objects. At the same time, while learning that, we will design a beer can or a soda can. We will start with a new project in Blender. Let's click New File and General, and first of all let's just go to File and Save As. Let's save this new file and call it, instead of untitled, let's name it to can, and we're going to click Save As. Now that it is saved, we can delete the cube by selecting it and pressing key X on our keyboard. In the pop-up window, let's click OK or click delete. Now let's add shape. To do that, we can press add on upper left corner, select mesh, and in open panel we just select cylinder. You can also use Shift A on your keyboard to add new mesh. Now that we have cylinder, we will change its original shape. All the changes we did before was changing only few basic parameters like size and rotation, but this time we will affect the shape on the mesh level. Mesh in computer graphics is defined as a polygon mesh, that is a collection of vertices, edges and faces that defines the shape. As you can imagine, that is how everything in computer graphics is made of. If you look into Illustrator, it is the same. You have 2 dots to make a line and 3 dots to make a triangle shape. These dots are called vertices in Blender. 2 dots connected with a line is called edges in Blender. 3 dots connected with lines is called faces in Blender. And this is the most simple explanation. Now that we have the cylinder in Blender, let's make it like a can. Let's select the cylinder and let's look around just by turning around it. It's positioned in between the axes. I will open the panel that we used before, that is just next to Gizmo, the small icon. As well, I can use any key on the keyboard to open it. In this transform panel, we can adjust location, rotation, and scale together with dimensions of the object. We can see that the dimensions are 2 meters of the can. In this case, it doesn't matter, it will be fine. The scale is 1. Only the problem that I have here is that it is below the center line. So what I want to do, I want just to lift it up and set it up. Because dimensions are 2 meters in all directions, I will change location and move this can by clicking G and Z on the keyboard, and now I can move it up and down. And you see in the transform panel, the values in Z field are changing. What I want to achieve is I want to have 1 meter. So 1 meter will be exactly above the panel. So I'll click 1 on the keyboard and I'm happy with that. I'll just click somewhere else with the mouse. And now I have it positioned on the grid. This looks a little bit better. However, if I look from the side, so I'll click X on the gizmo and see from one side, if I imagine that this would be a beer can or a soda can, this can could be much taller than it is right now. We learned that I could just click S and say scale it on Z axis and move it just like this a little bit. When I do it, I can see that in transform panel, dimensions of this object are changing. Let's say 3 meters, it's fine. So I'll just click here, making sure that it's 3 meters. And now again, this can is a little bit below the green axis. I want to move this can a little bit more up. So I'll go to Z panel here and write 1.5 and click enter. And now it's positioned on the bottom. It starts looking a little bit better. Now let's get into the details. Let's change our Blender mode. All this time we were in object mode. Now let's open edit mode. You have to first select an object. because every object will have its own object mode or its own edit mode. So to open edit mode of this object, make sure that it is selected. When object is selected, now click on the object mode field, and in this open panel, let's select edit mode. Once we select that, you will see your object with a lot of orange dots and lines. These dots are vertices that I mentioned before. The lines are edges, and all the gray areas surrounded by edges are faces. Here we can move every single point or edge or face individually. This also gives us much more control on changing how the shape looks like. Let's click 1 on the keyboard to look straight at our object from one side. First, we need to know which part of our object we want to affect. Next to the edit mode field, just on the right of it, we have 3 icons indicating vertex, edge and face. We need to select the one that we want to affect. First, let's try with the vertex, the one that is selected. With this, we can just click somewhere to unselect, move around our shape, select one of the dot, and now we can affect it. We can click G on our key, and we can move this dot around in the space, and you can see we can move inside, we can move outside. What it does is basically changes the location of that one dot. It is important to notice that all the faces that are connecting to this dot or lines are being affected by its location. And this is the whole magic of 3D modeling. This is where everything basically happens. If I don't want to move this one point, I can click escape on the keyboard and this dot will be released. I can just drag a box around multiple dots and do the same. Click G and I can move those dots. Now, instead of moving one dot, instead of moving one vertex, I can move multiple of them. And by this, you can see that I am completely changing the way the shape looks like. And again, click escape to cancel that and select again a couple of more, select G and move in, move out. Okay, let's leave that aside, click escape. If I click R to rotate, you see that now I can rotate even dots and they turn around the middle point. And this is also a very interesting feature. If I click escape and select one dot and click rotate, I'm rotating one dot, but that doesn't do anything. I need to select at least 2. I'll click escape and select 2 dots. With 2 dots selected, I can click R to rotate and move them and click escape. If I click S to scale, it affects distance between 2 dots. Alright, let's select the second option, which is edge selection. If I select edge selection just in the upper left corner, now what I can do, I can select edge and I can do the same as before. I can click G to grab and move it. You can see it's no longer one dot, it's the whole line that is selected. I can also restrict it with Z axis, so I can move only one direction. I can say Y axis and X axis. I will click escape. When I click rotate, this edge rotates around the middle point of it. I don't want to do that. I will click escape. I will click S to scale it and it will just change the length of one edge. You can make it shorter or longer. I will click escape because I don't want to do that. And now I can choose the last one, which is the face selection. After it's selected, I can select one of the faces that are on the side and also the face on the top. I can select G and you see when I move my mouse, I completely change the whole shape. I will click escape as I don't want to do that. I can do that as well with clicking R on the keyboard to rotate it. Click escape. If I look from top and click rotate and I turn it and now look from the side, this doesn't work for our canvas. So let's click Command and Z. Let's position from one side and now we learned how to select one of the things here. This cylinder is made out of dots out of lines and faces. That's the way how you create these kind of geometrical shapes in 3D modeling software. First of all, I want to zoom in, so I'll just move my mouse on the magnifying glass and zoom in a little bit in. I will pan it a little bit down so it's closer and start modifying only from one side. You see that edit mode has different toolbar and different options than our object mode. Edit mode is one of the most important when it comes to Blender. We will start with the shape that is called loop cut. And the loop cut, you can see this white square with green line around it. If we select it, we can move to our object, and now you can see when I move it around, it just appears with yellow line indicating where it could cut. It selects edge that the mouse is close to and it cuts that edge in the middle. So now I am just close to this edge and my mouse cuts that edge in a half. So this side and this side in a half. Now if I move the mouse closer from this line to this line, it cuts this line, the top line, in half. And this is how loop cut works. What I want to do is now add this loop cut in the middle here. So when I move close to it, I just need to click once. After I click once, the function is still active here, and what it does is just basically subdivides the whole shape in half. So now I have much more dots, so I can affect each of them separately. Before we do something, we can see that there is a small panel here. It says loop cut and slide, and this panel appears only once after you clicked that action. So let's open this, and we can see that in this we can choose number of cuts, and by default is 1. If I move it to the right, you can see now on the object we have 18. So the more of those cuts you have, the more flexible the shape gets because the faces are smaller. Let's select 2 for now. Here we can also adjust smoothness. So you can see smoothness, it already allows to change the size of them, and that changes the shape of our cylinder. I'll keep 0. Also, you can choose inverse square, the fall off with smoothness of around 0.5. I will try to change inverse square shape to another, to smooth, and the shape changes slightly, but I believe we need to have much more of the cuts to see the real effect. Come back to the first one, that is to the one that was here. It was inverse square and smoothness to 0, so we don't want to do that. Now the factor is very interesting. The factor, if I move it, you can see that it moves up and down selections, and this is very important. We are going to use that a lot. So, and this factor is the distance from the center to which direction it goes. So if I move to one side, that's how far away. It's all the way down and all the way to other side. But we don't want to have anything here. Let's keep it 0. And let's, instead of having 2 cuts, let's add 1 cut only. Just 1 cut. And now actually I want to move this factor somewhere here. And this is okay. I will just click outside of this box. Let's add one more loop cut, and now you can see that the second loop cut could be made, and this time it's no longer middle because the line length was changed. It's not the same length as before. So what I need to do, I just click here, and now I could just make another one and anywhere where I want, but I want to play with this one. So I want to also go to this panel that is on the left bottom corner and move the factor to the top, just somewhere here. Start adjusting the shape. Go back to the toolbar, to the icon that is select box. With the select box selected, as well as with vertex selection, I can just drag around the top line, and I could just say scale and move it inside to kind of change it a little bit so it looks a bit more like the can. The problem is that it selected only the points from one side, from one angle that I was looking for. So I'll click back to 1 and I select it from this side. That means only the visible dots were selected and affected. I will click Command Z to undo this modification, and what I could do is I could just move around and select, for example, one dot by dot, and still the shape is still fairly simple, so I could do that. Or I could try to select from top all of them and see how it looks like. And now actually it's good, like everything what I wanted to select is selected. However, this can work only now because we are lucky it's on the top. If we wanted to select the second line, this one, we can't do it from top and we have to rotate it. And of course I could just click Shift on my keyboard while some of the dots are selected and select more dots. And by this, I can just go around and drag around and select all of them. It's a little bit easier, still not the best way. I'll click 1 again on the keyboard, select somewhere, click somewhere else with the mouse, and I will introduce you to much more efficient way. We have to enable X-ray. That means we can look through the object and select everything in all the sides. This is in the upper right corner next to our viewport mode with two squares. It says toggle X-ray. If we click on it, our object becomes kind of transparent. We can look it through it. So now if I try to select this line, for example, and if I turn around, you can see that now it's see-through, and by this, it's much more easier to select things around. So we don't need to go around or select one dot by dot. Select the top part here, and I want to scale it. I want to scale it in a little bit, so it has some kind of angle, a little bit more like a can. The same for the bottom. I'll select bottom part, scale, and something like this. And here we have basic shape of the can. Of course, there are much more things we have to do here, but the basic idea is there. I will click Command S to save our progress, and now I want to change the view of it. I will click on Z on the gizmo to look into the scan from top. Now I want to select this face. To select the top face, I can go to the left upper corner next to edit mode, where we have vertex, edge, and face. I will select face and click on top. And now I can see that the top is selected. If I click G, I can move it up and down or move it sideways to change the way it looks like. I don't want to do that, but I could. I will click escape for now. Let's go back to the top view. So I click Z to do that. And with this selected, select another option, extrude region. And this is something we learned already before. We learned extrude curves. It works different with extrude region. Let's select this. Let's click on this extrude region to select it. And now we can see some kind of icon appears on that. Let's look from the side. So looking from the side, we have this symbol. So now that the top face is selected and extrude region is selected, we can select this white circle and see what happens. So when I move it, it extends our can up. So basically what it does, it builds from the line where it was, it builds new faces. And if we can move it and continue moving, we could just build the shape up and up. And this could be helpful in some cases. For example, now I could just select this plus, go up, and so on. Cancel what I did before. I want to extrude not outside, I want to extrude a little bit inside. So I'll click Command Z multiple times to get back. Again, look around, everything seems fine. I will click 1 on the keyboard, and now still with this face selected and extrude region function selected, I will move this a little bit down. And if I look from top or rotate the shape around, It is difficult to see it because we are in X-ray mode in upper right corner. So I'll disable that. I will click on this icon, and now you see what happened when we click extrude. One thing I don't like is that the way it extrudes only completely straight. That means this line, the edge, becomes very thin. So with this selected, I will click S to scale, and it will scale the face. And I will move the mouse a little bit inside so it creates nice angle, a little bit more. It's far from the can, but we can work with that. Let's do the same for the bottom. The bottom of the can is also not flat, but to make it better we can have another better way. Let's do that on the bottom. So I'll just turn around the view so I could see the bottom of the can, and I will use another function that is under the extrude region. It's called inset faces. I will select that one, and while I'm hovered with the mouse on it, it says it insets new faces into selected faces. So I need to select first face. I will select this one, and instead of extrude option, I will select inset faces. Now again, with this yellow marker, I can move it up, but I can't move up because the face doesn't let us to expand. But if I move it a little bit in, you can see that I'm creating new face somewhere here, and you see that, and I will move a little bit inside somewhere here and let it go. If I select box icon, and you can see, and click somewhere else, you can see that now what it did, it just basically created one more face and created this inset around. So now I can select again extrude region, select the face, and move a little bit inside like that. And now I can click S to scale to make it a little bit smaller. So now we don't have this sharp edge anymore, because what we did here, actually it's not very realistic. Well, we'll keep that like this for now. And this is really helpful. This is really nice. The next function is bevel. So bevel, if I move on bevel, what it does, it cuts into selected items at angle to create bevel or chamber. So with the edge selection, I can just click on one edge, and I want to select the whole loop around. To do that, I will go to select, click select loops, and click on edge loops. It selects almost the whole circle. The problem was because I was playing around with these faces before, therefore it doesn't work. So I'll click shift and select them manually. And now with all of them selected, I have to make sure bevel tool is selected, and now I can just try to drag it in or out. And you can see everything is fine. I can just zoom in to this edge, and you see what it does. It creates a nice, tries to make this rounded. And we have again a lot of options here in the panel that opens here. Let's try to create with the outer circle here. So I will select outer edge here, go to select, click select loops and edge loops. And you can see again, I have everything fine except this part. So select that manually. So now that I selected all the edges that are around, I will drag this yellow symbol a little bit down, and you see it creates one more line around and tries to make it rounded. And after I do that, there is this option, bevel option opens. This toolbar, after you do some kind of action, it opens only one time. If you click somewhere else, it's gone. So you have to redo that action. So while we are here, it's very important to take advantage of that. For example, this edge doesn't look nice still. I want to have it much more rounded than it is now. So to do that, I will go to segments in this bevel toolbar, and instead of one segment, I'll just click on this arrow and I'll split it more, and you can see what happens is that the more segments it is, the more rounded it gets, and this is what I'm looking for here. I can play with profile, I can move it inside or outside, but I'll leave original 0.5, and it's 4 segments. The more segments you do, the more difficult for software it is to calculate. However, with 4 segments it's fine. So let's select one of this line, go to select loops and edge loops. So it selects one of that. I select one ring here. Still with the bevel selected, I'll just move it in. You see it creates one more phase here. I'll add more segments to make it more rounded. And this looks much better. Now I'll repeat everything what I did at the bottom on the top. The easy part would be to select it with a shortcut. Select the edge you want to select and click twice on it, and it selects the whole loop. Then you take this yellow indicator and move it up, and here in the bevel toolbar you can add more segments to make it a bit more rounded, more organic. I will select this one by selecting twice and try to move like this and make many segments so it creates rounded shape here. And it's quite simple model to do because everything is rounded. We would still need to finish creating an opening in the top, and to do that so it looks much closer to can that we wanted to model, except this top edge is something that I do not like. To change that, I can again look from one side, zoom into it. I will move with the hand pan a little bit down, and I will select the tool that we already learned. It's the loop cut. I'll select loop cut, go to the top, and here you can see the loop cut is selected. I cut this here. I will move this loop cut a little bit up here, and what I want to do, I want to just scale it a little bit outside. So what you see, you see what's happening. I'm making it basically manually. So with this, I can add one more loop here. I can make one more loop here, move it up, select S, and just move a little bit inside, just to have a little bit of edge there. I could make one more here, and the more you add and S, and you can just perfect those edges however you want. I want to select, so I will select this edge, I will select G and move this edge on Z axis a little bit just down. Outer edge, I will zoom in. Now with this outer edge that is very sharp, I will select twice on it. I will select bevel and see what happens if I could create one more edge here and add more segments so to make it rounded. The same I can do with this one. I will make it a small bevel here. Add more segments just to have like a little bit of rounded shape. I'll zoom out. However, let's make the hole and the top. So let's look from the top view. So another tool I'm going to show is the knife tool. It's not how you would do it, but you could. So let's select the knife tool. Let's position the scan from top, and let's add the dot. So what the knife does is basically adds dots. So with this knife selected, we could just make a new shape. So I could just select some dots here. More or less, it's not going to be nice, but whatever. Let's see how it goes. So we select the region with the knife. We can click enter on this region, and it creates this shape. You can see that it for it to work, it had to create more cuts in this face. Otherwise, it wouldn't have worked. Select this face, and if we click double on it, we can just see that the last function is delete faces. We click on delete, and it is deleted. So now you can see inside the can that we made. This is very basic way, but very important tool. So here we are going to end with our edit tutorial.